I want to take you back to 1963. I was living in Scarborough. I was the fifth of six kids in a fine Irish Catholic family, you know, always going to church and things like that, you know. And the mother was very, very Catholic. You know, you had to go do your penance about 4 times a day. That's what you had to do. And in 1962, there was a priest who was assigned to our parish from St. Augustine's Seminary. His name was Father Alphonse Robert, and he started his grooming of me at that time and started to get in and get my parents to trust him. So in the summer of 1963, when he approached them and said, "Hey, let's take little Bobby to Montreal. It'll be a great experience for him. And you'll learn, you'll be able to serve Mass for me in the Basilica of Notre Dame." And sure enough, they said, sure, you know, you trusted your priest in 1963, they're next to God. Only we stopped in Cornwall, got a motel room, and he abused me throughout that night. I was terrified, I was paralyzed, and I didn't understand anything that was going on. And the next morning, there's gaps throughout the entire episode that I have no recollection of even today in all of the healing I've done with it. But the next morning, we end up in Montreal. We are at the Basilica of Notre Dame, and that gentleman comes up to me and says, "Do you want me to hear your confession?" And then I served Mass for that man, hating that man, at a side altar of that church. I don't remember the ride home. I remember running up the driveway in Scarborough, Ontario, and saying, "I can't tell anybody. Who's going to believe me over God?" And for 50 years, I kept it a secret. And there are many men like that. That was when I was 11 in 1963. Around 15, 16, I found alcohol. By 22, I was drinking alcoholically, looking for my Tuesday shirt, and I had a handle on it for a while, and I was okay. And then the first marriage ended, and then the second marriage ended, and then the third marriage ended. But it was okay because my life was unmanageable because the wives just didn't do it right, because the bosses just didn't treat me right. I love playing the victim, and I perfected it, and I didn't know I was doing it. I had no idea. Alcohol was my master, and I was its slave. It took me from earning a very good salary in the automotive industry, which ended here in Guelph in 2010, to sleeping under bridges and bin diving, fighting rats for pieces of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was struck sober. I wish I could say, boy, Bob, you really got a problem with alcohol. And by the way, Guelph's safer, and I don't have a problem here tonight. But please drink one for me. About 2 blocks from here, Wellington and Bristol, something came between me and booze, and my journey in recovery began. I spent 3 years in a 12-step fellowship for men and women who have a problem and can't drink, who are alcoholic. And that fellowship saved my life. That fellowship taught me what it meant to connect with other people. And it taught me that my problem wasn't booze. Booze was a solution to Bob's problem. Bob and alcohol had a history, and it probably saved me from killing myself many times over in the years ahead. But it took me down through October and November of 2010 where I just wanted to kill myself, and I didn't have the guts to do it. So I'm a failure in life through 4 marriages, 3 kids. I haven't seen it in I don't know how long. And now I can't even kill myself. What a waste of skin. I started in recovery. I started to heal. I started working with a few other men. I started to do some stuff. Then people started to get sober around me, and I had a good connection. To Christmas Day of 2013, I relived that abuse. And from 2013 to 2019, in May of 2019, that journey ended with a decision that came down from the Ontario Court of Appeal, and we had beaten the Archdiocese of Toronto. throughout that entire process, there were amazing people in my line of sight. There were amazing counselors. There was amazing friends, family, you know, bunches of alcoholics and addicts. Man, I love these folk. I love them. And they got me through this stuff. They allowed me to be real. Carl Jung speaks about what an alcoholic needs is a vital spiritual experience in order to get sober. And that's not a religious experience. It's not Sunday morning preacher going, praise the Lord, you're going to get sober. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking at the world differently and how I interact. I couldn't connect with you. I didn't trust any of you people. God himself had raped me in a hotel in Cornwall in 1963. So you think I'm going to trust any of you? I don't think so. Marriages, I didn't take wives. I took hostages. I started into recovery. And I was able to get through this process, and now the healing, I am no longer a victim. I don't live in that victim triangle anymore. I don't need to be that victim, and then when I come out of it, persecute you because I don't trust you, or I try to rescue you from whatever I perceive is wrong with you. I just exist. It's given me the gift to be able to stand here tonight and share that with you, because real men don't talk about this. Real men just suck it up and deal with it. Real men just suck it up, and they don't get worried that Jean Vanier, in a report that just came out this weekend, a hero of mine who I sat on stages with, that I have some healing to do on that now. But that's not going to put me back in trauma. I've been blessed with being a recovered alcoholic. I don't have the obsession to drink. I don't have a problem being in this room tonight with the bar just that far over, and Guelph is a safer place for that. Come on, that was my A material. And I can share my trauma and sexual abuse with you so that another man can maybe live. A couple of weeks ago, I did an interview with CBC, and in the morning, I didn't know it was on a Monday morning, and I got a call from a sponsee of mine in New Brunswick saying, I'm just listening to you. And I didn't know what he was talking about, so he told me later that day, I was speaking on a radio show out of Ottawa, and a gentleman got on and told me how he had been sexually abused many years earlier and had never spoken about it. I spoke at a meeting in Cornwall, and a man came up to me and said, me too. The two worst things in my life have become the two strongest assets in my life. And we've heard that from the other speakers here tonight. That is the only thing that makes this worthwhile. Gives it some sense. Maybe this is the mission I'm supposed to be. My wife and I have now started a charity that we call Recovery Speaking here in Guelph. There's a lot of men and a lot of women who need clinical trauma counseling and can't get it because they don't have the money, and OHIP doesn't cover it. We are going to pay for that. We are going to reach out to these people for spiritual, financial, and emotional help to get through trauma, because there's life on the other side of this. There is. And I'm an example of that. Not because of anything I did. I showed up, and I was beaten so bad that I had no other alternative. I want to close with one thing that another hero of mine, Mother Teresa, once said. We need to work with other people. We need to connect with other people. But don't worry about the numbers of how many that is. Work with one at a time, and start with the one closest to you. Thank you very much.